Hey, it's Sue Greenwald here with Awakened Stories. I'm here today with Deanna Carr from the Mystical Moonlight. Hey, Deanna, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. So today we're just going to do some follow-up questions from our previous videos and a couple
Mhm.
maybe random questions if we have time. So I think it was last week we put out a video about Anastasia and the Russian royals, and people really liked that one.
Mhm.
So I wanted to make one comment before we got started. Months ago, Smarty had put out a picture. It was a black royal family in their gowns and crowns and all that other stuff. And he said it was a real photo and it was the Russian Tsar and his family. That was their family, their truthful family. All that photo has been taken off everyone's devices. It's not on Smarty's channels anymore. It's not on any of our phones or whatever. Nobody in our group can find that photo. Isn't that
Mhm.
crazy? So
Yeah.
I put a picture that's probably like a Wikipedia picture out there. It's not the real family, but it's the one that I think the general public believes is the real family. So that's not the
Mhm.
right picture. Best I could do. I was hoping to substitute it with the real picture in the future. So that's just a little thing I wanted to say that I didn't
Mhm.
before. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did get a few questions, and I thought if we could fill it out anymore, people seemed really interested in the story. So the first question is Melania Trump in some way related to that royal family? So, I mean, that's a really broad way. You have to narrow it down. Like, is she part of that bloodline or whatever?
I'm getting yes.
Ooh,
Yeah.
well,
It's like there is relation, but I am getting a yes.
they say every person on earth is somehow related. So like we want to
Mhm.
be a little bit more uh focused on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, is Melania a man, a biological male?
I'm getting yes.
Boom. I knew it. So interesting, isn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah. The plot thickens, how we've been deceived by everything. All right. So somehow she's involved with that royal family. Um,
Yeah,
anything.
I'm seeing how it intertwines, but there it's very complex. So looking at the family tree, it's not like direct connection, but there is a little bit of connection.
Okay.
But it's yeah, it's there is relation, but it's nowhere close to, saying, "Hey, I'm related to them."
Okay.
No.
In the previous video, you had said that some of the perpetrators that had caused the death of that family were
Mhm.
still alive now. So my first question is, are they alive in the old bodies that they occupied then, the old personalities, or do they have new bodies? Have they assumed new?
Some of them do have new bodies.
Okay.
Um, yeah, some of them have shed and gotten into new ones.
Dirty dogs. Okay. All right. So they're still out there kind of controlling and playing around with what's happening economically. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Are they going to be exposed in the near future for what they've
Yeah,
been?
so if you remember the last one, um, you asked the question if they were going to, get caught, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Some of them are going to be or have been caught already.
Yeah.
Some of them have to learn a few more lessons before they get caught. So, a few more crimes and then, bad stuff happens to them.
That seems to be the way it is. Like they're given about 1 billion second
Yeah,
chances, right? Okay.
yeah.
All right.
So I do see them, I don't want to say it's justice because it's different.
Yeah.
But they're getting what's coming to them. I'll
Okay.
say it that way.
All right. So then I had a question. Was the climate in Russia warmer then?
Yes.
Wow. It was.
Yeah, the weather was different and it started cooling off more recently. Um, how do I explain it? it's when they started messing with all the technology on the weather related
Right.
objects.
Yeah.
So part of it is caused because of that. I mean, they did have, low temperatures during the winter seasons,
Yeah.
but now it's harsher and longer.
Okay. Yeah. When I was a kid, even there was a joke like you'd be sent to Siberia, which was like the coldest place ever, and most desolate place ever.
Yeah.
But it seems like they've been playing with the weather manipulation, so that's one area that they've really hit hard, right?
Yeah.
And
And
people, yeah,
the thing about the weather too, I mean, they always say it's really cold there, but some places, the snow is an insulation, so it actually warms it up. So even though there's snow, I mean, just like, when we were in Pennsylvania, like if it wasn't snowing and it was cold, it was cold. But if
yeah,
it was snowing, you felt warmer when you're outside.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so it is an insulation. So even though there might be snow out, it still doesn't mean that it's,
Okay, yeah.
cold to our bodies.
Okay. Okay. Interesting, isn't it?
Mhm.
So these perpetrators that that murdered the family, all right, were they there? Like, what was really their game? Like, obviously they wanted the wealth and the power and control. But is there something else that we're missing there? Is there some other reason they caused this incident?
Um, so part of it was they were being off like kind of like the devil and the angel on the shoulders. One was saying, don't do this. The other one was saying, like, you're going to get the wealth, you're going to get the power. There was somebody behind the scene kind of nudging them, like, oh, well, if you do this, then you'll get this. So it wasn't like it was their initial idea. Somebody was plotting that into their thought
Into
process.
their
So then
conscious.
it became, oh, I came up with this great idea. But no, somebody was there behind the scenes putting that information into their
Yeah.
head.
Oh, really? Okay. So do we know
Mhm.
who that person is? We don't. Or
No. There's that person is still high on the chart.
running
So
free.
they're running freely, but they still are running stuff. So it's been a plot for a while. They've had many plots going on. That was just one of them.
Okay.
Um, I'm seeing it connected to many things. So this was not the first incident. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I mean, pretty much every war was started with we could say the point the war was started, the decision point. Like World War I was the assassination of what was his name? Ferdinand in Bosnia, they killed him.
Yeah.
And we stood on that corner, right? And
Yeah, it was crazy.
they say it was the shot heard around the world, and oh my God, everyone was abuzz, and that's why they started the war. Well, that's a bunch of BS, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That was an excuse for war, and they want war for multiple reasons: economic control,
Mhm.
death. They want people to die, believe it or not. So we could go into all those ugly reasons, but they manipulated us for so long.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Anything else we should know that we haven't asked there? Like, it seems to me like there's a bigger reason than just taking over one, even though it's probably a lot of wealth and jewels and blah, blah, blah. It just seems like it's a big incident. It still has chatter around it, which is odd over after 100 years.
Hmm.
We're still talking about it. Here we are.
Yeah. Um, there is a bigger picture.
Okay,
Um, it's hard because it's complex. There's a lot of playing parts. It's like a moving chess piece.
right.
So yes, it was one grouping, I would say, of incidences, that moved that forward, and that's why we talk about it today. But that was, like I said, the person that was plotting this, there's many things that they were plotting. So this was to lead up to a bigger picture. What the bigger picture is, I do not necessarily know. Because like I said, they have many streams of chatter that they've put out there.
Okay.
So the only way to know will be to ask the person.
Okay. All right, interesting though, interesting. Now, this is a sidebar to this. We had asked about Melania being a male. So we had a question, is Queen Victoria, the original Victoria, is she a male, biological male? So, we've seen pictures or whatever of her and she was quite unattractive. And so somebody asked me that question.
She was neither.
Whoa, didn't expect that answer.
She was neither because she's not human.
Okay.
There are some species that do not actually have genders, or I don't want to call it asexual. Um, they don't have a gender.
Okay. So what species are we talking about?
It's a type of reptilian. I don't know the specific specification.
All right.
So what you're seeing with the ugliness is, the shedding body.
Yeah.
Let's call it that.
Wow. So, was she a good or a bad reptilian? We'll just put it that way. Like, was her agenda good or bad?
It was bad.
Yeah. They were there to
No,
take over again.
yeah, most of the royal families, I'm not specific on the date, but after a certain point, they were taken over
Yeah.
by reptilians. So she was part of that, area. Um, Once that happened, everything was going downhill. So everything that they're doing, even though they can come off, they have great PR, they know how to represent themselves, they know how to display themselves. It was actually, a cover up for everything they're doing, and that led into the next section. I mean, when you look at most royal, especially when we're talking about Europe, they've done, even just looking at the history books. And now I know not everything is completely accurate,
Accurate.
but there are some accurate points. They do horrendous things for the things that they think they need or they think is right.
Right. Right. Yeah. We already know how selfish and evil they are in at least present day. We don't know
Mhm.
how far back this all goes, but yikes, I didn't expect that answer.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Mhm.
And I know the royalty has been taken over. So again, they want the dark forces, if you will, want the power, they want the
Mhm.
money, they want the control. So they shape
Yeah.
the way history is, they shape the way society is, right?
Mhm.
The belief system, the behaviors, everything.
Yeah. So there's many big pictures, but I mean it usually leads back to, the greed.
Right.
What else could they have? The ego.
Yeah. So basically, when they take over, then they can work together with their other counterparts to take over the world in the way that they've been doing, like, because
Yeah.
we're not aware, especially back then, we didn't really have the communication like we do now. We
Hmm.
didn't have videos or the cell phone. So, like, even if you thought you saw something odd, who are you going to tell and how?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Or
now,
they come to your door, it's men in black and say, be
yeah.
quiet.
Yeah, now you could take a photo of it and upload it and, they might get a lot of them down, but somebody is gonna at least see it and
Mhm.
eventually people will believe. So how interesting is
Yeah.
that? Yeah. So there's a lot of topics we can talk about. All right. Anything else we should know about that at this point?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
mean, if people have questions, always ask them. It always
Yeah,
helps.
yeah. I love the people's questions because sometimes there's stuff I haven't thought about. Like
Mhm.
sometimes when I'm in the moment, like I forget things or I'm like, oh, I should have said that afterwards, but it is what it is, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I wanted to follow up on a Bermuda Triangle question, and you have
Okay.
semi-answered this. So do the top people, and let's call it in the government, etc., okay,
Mhm.
know that the Bermuda Triangle and Atlantis inner Earth, the way you described it last time, that exists?
Yes.
They do.
Yes. They are aware of it.
Yeah,
Do they have access to it? I'm getting no, they don't have access to it, but they know how to, get there.
right. Okay. So they know about it, but they kind of keep it shrouded in mystery. So like us, the common people, don't know if it's real or not. We make fun of
Mm,
people that believe in it or whatever that. So
yeah.
again, they have the knowledge, we don't.
Hmm.
Okay, all right. So in this case, we talked about the Bermuda Triangle, like a plane or a boat goes through a, like, we'll call it a shield or a force field. Now, is that shield or force field always up?
Yes.
Okay, is
If
it,
it's down, it's not purposeful.
okay,
You
so
can get through the force field when it's up.
you can.
Yeah.
All right, so
It's not gonna project, it's not gonna push people away. It's not like you're gonna walk into, this barrier. It's just it's just up so you can't see what's behind it. Basically like camouflage.
yeah. Is it like holographic or
Mhm.
so like you might see a screen that looks like just blank ocean or whatever where you
Yeah.
go through and it's like, oh, so different
Yeah. So it's advanced technology. Yeah.
technology. Okay. Especially when it's that physically big, it has
Mhm.
got to be advanced in my opinion.
Oh, definitely. Well, that
Mm.
and then just the output and the source of power to generate something that large, constant, has to
Yeah.
be advanced in itself.
Yeah. Okay. So they have a power source. Is it like a natural, like are they using the energy of the earth? They know how to do that.
Yes.
Dirty dogs.
Mhm. Well, I mean, most people, there's a lot of stuff that nowadays could be run off of natural energy, just they don't want us to use it because of greed.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
like the whole earth could be run off of natural energy. It's just greed. They want our money, right? And look
Exactly.
at the struggle that we're going through, right? The suffering.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
they're rich, so they don't care.
yeah, not cool. Not cool. Okay. Now these are some new random questions that we had. Okay, so who creates our life contracts before we come to Earth?
It's a good question.
Yeah. Like,
All right, so who creates it? I'm getting source.
oh. Like, do we have a meeting or do we just agree or how does that work?
I see you're given choices.
Ah,
It's like you have multiple contracts that pop up. Um, you get to choose which one.
ah,
So there's purpose behind it, but there's a reason for each contract being written, and then you get the choice.
wow.
Once you sign the contract, whatever the contract states is what you do. Um, and that's why it's more binding. I'd say there are things that you can kind of get out of, but for the most part, our contracts are binding.
Wow. Okay. So basically, we're given, let's just say three choices. Bing, bing, bing. And we're like
Mhm.
easy, medium, hard. And then, but hard might have the greatest good for evolution. We might
Yeah.
say, well, I can do it. And we jump right into that life. And then we get
Hmm.
down, we're like, damn.
What was I thinking?
Yeah, that's pretty much how it works, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't see it being somebody else's like creating this. There is purpose between everything that we're given. And we always say let it up to universe, which is, part of, the source. So what I'm getting is that it's source that's writing these
Wow.
contracts. And then the way I'm seeing they're presented is that they're literally poofing the air. So I don't know how accurate that one is, but I do see kind of just falling in front of you, just
That's kind of
opening
what I
up.
saw when you said the source does it. I saw like, it kind of bing, 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 like almost cartoon-like, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And there's the
Yeah.
big pen with the feather sign here.
Yeah, and then like I said, you get your choice, and I think for the harder lifetimes, you have the most impact on people, and you learn the most lessons, blah, blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah, blah. And
Yeah.
it's got the greatest return. It's just not an easy life, right?
It's not easy. And I was just talking to a client the other day about this. Um, because most of us on this spiritual journey have hard things we're going through,
Yeah,
hard life, hard bumps we're going around.
yeah,
And it's setting us up because if we don't know what the people are going through, how are we going to help them?
yeah,
How are we going to better them? Now, we have to go through it, unfortunately, because we have to
yeah,
understand
yeah,
not only how to handle it, but how to conquer it and how to get through it. And that's where a lot of us get stuck because, we get into this mindset of, okay, this is happening to me,
right.
blah, blah, blah. We go on this pity party. I do it too once in a while. It's natural for us because it's like, why is this happening?
Yeah,
But then we don't realize later on it actually set us up to help these people to understand what they're emotionally going through, what they're feeling, how to get out of it, and how to make their lives better. And that's really why we have these hard not lives.
right.
So,
I always say the same thing because
mhm.
we've experienced it. Like you learn most intently by experiencing something. Like I can tell you about something or show you a picture, but when you're immersed in it, you learn the quick and hard way, right? And then you have to
Yes.
figure out solutions, and you get better and better at getting yourself out of the problem or whatever it may
Yeah.
be. And that's we do that so that we're knowledgeable about how our society works, but we're also compassionate to those that are going through the same thing.
Mhm. Yeah. And it also forces us to work with our vibrational pattern more
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
You know, because we have to get out of this low vibrational pattern. How do we handle that in these human bodies? So there's many reasons for this, but yeah, it's, whatever you're going through, you will conquer it and you'll be able to help others.
yeah. And there's a saying, God doesn't give you more than you can handle, right? Like
Yeah.
you're given just what you need to, like there's challenge. I mean, it's not like you're going to be, just chilling, but there's
Yeah.
always challenge, but you can overcome it when you put your mind to it.
Hmm.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that was a good question. You know,
Hmm.
now what I had learned before or believed is that we go up in between our lifetimes, and the angels take us aside, and we go through healing and blah blah blah, life review, and then they sit down and we plan every detail of the upcoming life together, right? Um,
Yeah.
in this case, it's a much more streamlined program where you've got your three choices, which one you're going to pick. So.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. So next question, next topic, again, submitted by somebody. The subconscious mind basically has commands that we give it. And
Mhm.
like how we reinforce it is what becomes reality or what
Yeah.
we manifest, right? So is the subconscious mind a real thing, is the question. Is so like is what I described just a real thing? We're told if we, think positive, light, fluffy thoughts and feed that into our subconscious, our vibration is going to lift.
That's a great question. Okay. Um, so yes, it is a living, I don't know how to say this. Okay, so yes, when we think these positive thoughts, our vibrational pattern will uplift and we'll start to see change and alterations in our lives for the better. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. That does take time.
Right.
But is it a living being? It is. Um, I don't know how to explain it though. So,
Okay.
um,
Is it part of us?
it's an extension of ourselves, yes.
All right.
Um, the way I'm seeing it is basically, like I said, an extension of ourselves. So it's like an aura of ourself. So when we put this vibrational pattern out there, when we say we want this, we want that, it's almost like our spirit has itself go off and do these things while we're still in our bodies. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really hard to explain.
So,
Uh,
so if you think a positive thought, you go, let's say a step forward. You think a negative thought, you go backward. So if we keep going through self-doubt and worry, we're just bouncing between the two, right? What we
yes,
want and I can't have it, and what we want and I can't do it. And we go back and forth and we never get forward motion.
because you're stuck.
Yeah,
You're sticking yourself in this situation where your vibrational pattern doesn't know what to do.
right,
Or can't go forward because you're not allowing it because you have these negative thoughts, and then when you have the positive thoughts, the negative thoughts are holding it back.
right.
And that's really where, when we say you get this vibrational pattern where things around you just go with ease,
Yeah, yeah,
that's where we want to be. You want to be in this stasis of positivity.
right,
And it's really hard. Like I said, part of this, going through these hard things to learn for others, but it's also how do we conquer these emotions with, we do have to survive. We don't have all the luxury. How do we get through to the next step with these self-doubts and these negative thoughts? And how do we push forward to stay in this vibrational pattern? And that, like I said, that comes with time. You have to understand how to stay in this, I don't want to say okay feeling. It's going to happen.
right,
It's going to work out. And you'll actually start to notice once you start thinking like this for even just a few weeks, things will start to shift
right,
because you've already changed your vibrational pattern to this more uplifted. Now, not everything's going to change instantly, but you're going to notice that things are coming more in flow with you. And
right,
as you keep that up, so if that only happens in a month, imagine 2 months, imagine a year. As we progress, things are going to come easier for us.
right,
And that's where we kind of have to let it up to the universe. Like, it's going to be okay.
right.
It's going to work out. Um, what is it? I'm gonna find this funny because you'll hear this later on. So Alan lost what was it? He lost something of his the other day. And he got really upset because he's like, I just got it and it's disappeared on me. And I was like, whatever, it's gonna pop up. And I told him, as soon as you just let it go and you move on with your life, it is going to work out. Literally, as soon as he let go of the thought about it, it popped up into the universe and he found it. And I was like, see, I'm right.
Right, right,
And that's kind of the same thing, even with these everyday tasks and, finding a job, finding the next step. It will happen. You just
right,
have to allow it to be what it needs to be.
right, right. So the thought pattern is important. So keeping positive, we've probably all listened or read to, the goal setting books and the affirmations and all that.
Mhm.
Keeping it positive, keeping it current and all of
Yeah.
that. But you have to believe it and expect it and be happy, because if you're all negative and grumpy, things are going to be repelled by that energy,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it's just trying to like stay more in the flow and staying more conscious of it, which is sometimes easier said than done.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So interesting stuff though, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It is. There's
Okay, so
there's so many questions on how everything works.
yeah. So, a big book for this is Louise Hay's How to Heal Your Life, where she gives you all these affirmations. And she kind of was almost like a pioneer in this field, like how to change what you're doing just by your thoughts.
Mhm.
And she probably came out in the 70s or whatever with that, but very good stuff and still pertinent.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
anybody can write their own affirmations.
yeah,
It's,
yeah,
what do you want? Just make sure it's positive. Like we
yeah,
said, like if you put anything negative, it is going to come back tenfold. It's
right,
pulling in that it likes the negativity. So if you ask for negative, it's going to give it to you.
yeah, yeah. And I believe Louise Hay even has it's like something like 101 affirmations or something on YouTube
Mhm.
where you can listen to it and then repeat it after her.
Yeah.
But it just makes you feel good. It's uplifting, it's light. And after
Mhm.
a while you get the hang of that feeling, then you can do your own.
Yeah. It's kind of like what I tell people, fake it till you make it. If
Yeah,
you feel low vibration, if you feel like people around you are low vibration, start to, bring in positive things like the YouTube,
yeah,
the affirmations, bring it in slowly so you can get that idea of what it feels
yeah,
like and try to constantly stay in that. Now, it takes time, staying in a high vibrational pattern and not letting others get to you can
yeah,
be hard,
yeah,
but try your best and you will notice. I've had many clients. We worked on, setting the goals, setting the affirmations, working on these small steps to change their lives. And within weeks, they've already noticed a big change. So just imagine if you just put a little bit of time into
yeah,
yourself
yeah,
and making sure yourself is happy
yeah.
and uplifted, you can make a huge difference.
Right, right. I mean, this is a big topic.
Yeah.
I think taking care of yourself, like feeling like you have enough sleep, that you have the right nutrition and this and that, and you have a good, positive, uplifting, clean environment. And then
Mhm.
you can really focus more on what you want to move forward. Like I noticed that when you're distracted, there's a lot of chaos going on and a lot of crazy stuff. It's really hard to be positive, right?
It is.
You're distracted. And that's why our society keeps us distracted because we can't think straight. We can't move forward in our lives if we've got all this stuff in our faces, right? All these
Yeah.
crazy events happening around the world, false flags, and just rumors and all that stuff. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Interesting. So, switch of topic to a new one. We have talked about plants and trees before.
Mhm.
And we've really just touched on it, and it's really the cause for more conversation, but um do trees have their own consciousness?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. So a single tree has its own consciousness and it can communicate with other trees and other plants in that area, right?
Yes.
And can they communicate nationwide, worldwide?
It's a little bit harder now. They used to be able to do it a lot easier.
Yeah, okay. And how do they speak? Do they have a language? Like what is the modality of their communication?
That's interesting. So the way that they speak, I would say they would have their own language to each other, but we can also communicate to trees.
Right,
And it doesn't matter what language you speak.
right,
Um, it's it's kind of like when you get, a message, we think it's our voice because it usually comes out, it's, a voice in our head, that's us, that's how we depict it. But some things can come through that voice. So we may think it's us talking, but it's actually the entity, meaning the tree in this case.
right.
So it can communicate through us through our own language.
Okay,
That makes
interesting.
sense.
Okay, and I know we've talked about this because we've talked to trees before. And
Yes.
so one of the stories that I have is years ago, I had a really negative event happen to me. So I went walking because, it makes you feel better to move, right? When you're upset, especially. So I went walking and I wasn't feeling better. And I leaned against this tree I just happened to always admire. And instantly I felt like all my chakras like lining up. Bing, 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 bing. It was just the most amazing sensation. So I went back and got Deanna and dragged her out to that specific tree for some Q&A. And I learned a lot that day because, again, something that you don't always think about. That was probably at least 15 years ago. It was a
Yes,
long
well,
time ago. Yeah. So.
crazy.
Yeah, I don't know, a long time ago, but I learned so much that day. So trees do communicate. So now we got a question from someone in Sweden that said a lot of the trees in her area are dying and the leaves look like they're curled up. So the question was, are they dying from air pollution or, pollution? Like they're spraying all this stuff in the air. Is that what's causing it?
I see it being underground. There's something underground.
Okay.
It looks like there is pollution, but I don't see it being from the air. I see it being from something in the soil.
Okay. And so she said once she goes by it, she wands these trees for health. Is that
Mhm.
going to help them?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Some of them are past the point of, you know, physically being able to be helped. But um the being inside will be able to heal. So, we never really talk about what happens when a tree gets cut down, nor do we talk about if it, naturally dies or dies from something else.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but the entity does stay. So the being can be trapped. So by you trying to heal it, it will be able to move on to its next
Okay.
goal, whatever that may be.
So let's ask a question then. So somebody's going to go down and cut down a forest. So they go up with their chainsaw and they're starting to cut down the tree. Can the entity leave the tree and go into the root system at that point?
They can leave the system. Um, they would have to be more of a mature tree. Um, the entity has to be at a certain understanding of how to do that. It's not necessarily easy. I mean, we don't really know how to leave our bodies, right? So a tree doesn't necessarily know how to leave theirs.
Right.
Um, so for it to leave the body fully, it would have to be, pretty understanding of how to do that. So not all trees can escape that.
Wow. So by cutting down trees or burning them down or whatever, that's really causing another level of suffering. So not only is the tree itself dying, which is not good for anyone, but the entity that lives inside the tree is trapped.
Mhm.
Now, is there anything we can do to help them?
Yes, you can. So either beforehand, let's say you do, because trees can be dangerous to us, where it could knock our house over, blah, blah, blah. You can help move the entity out of the tree before cutting it down. You just have to a little more complex. So there's two different ways. One would be to let the being know beforehand so that way it can start, let's say, the process and figuring that out. But the other way would be to bring a crystal with you. Allow, this is complex. All right, so you can bring a crystal with you. It has to transfer its energy to the crystal. So you have to let it set for at least a week
Oh,
and then you can move it. Because not you have to think the crystal has entity in it too, so it has to be able to. Okay, it's just very complex.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if you're going to do it, just ask me later on.
Or just go up to the tree and say, I'm cutting you down.
Yeah, it's easier if you let them know besides just
Yeah.
going crazy.
Yeah.
Um, They are able to, like I said, they're able to do it. Most of the time, they just need to be a more mature spirit in the tree.
Mm,
But if you give them notice, they can, like I
yeah.
said, communicate with each other and they can get
Yeah.
out of the situation.
And we had talked about this when you mow your lawn, okay? Go out and say, "Hey, okay, fairies, I'm mowing the lawn now, or I'm putting pesticides down now, or whatever," so that they know and they can, escape, if you will, right?
Yeah.
We had same kind of a thing with a tree, all right?
Mhm.
And for most of us, we were not gonna cut the trees down anyways, but we notice how they're cutting trees down, even the redwoods, like they're just using that redwood wood and,
Yeah.
it's
It's very
shocking,
upsetting.
shocking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so to me, talking to the trees is amazing, and I have put a video out on my website with trees moving, physically moving through the earth, moving their branches consciously, not like the breeze blowing them, but consciously moving. And I wrote a blog to that effect where I saw a tree move for no, apparent reason. All right.
Mhm.
So it's just very interesting that, we discount them. Okay, they're only trees, they're only rocks, they're only this, they're only that. They have a consciousness, right? They live on this planet too, so we just need to get used to that fact, right?
Yes.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. All right, one last question for the Q&A today
Okay.
is it's about the sun. And of course, we know Smarty calls the sun. He says there's two of them in our district. He calls them simulated crystals. Okay. So
Mhm.
we have two of those. And the question was, how are they powered? So there's a higher degree of technology setting all that up for us, right?
Yes.
And mostly the sun is giving us light.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's giving us light. I mean, we're supposed to be getting energy and say like vitamin D from it.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be healing from it. From the simulated crystals, not so much. That's why we have a lot of um vitamins we have to take to supplements. Um, along with that's also really the point when we noticed the shift was when we started having to use sunscreen. Now they say it was like invented because we're having all these problems, but it was actually invented because our bodies were reacting poorly to it.
Oh. Well, sunscreen is not that new of an event, or it's a new invention, right?
Yeah.
So probably within 50 years, it's become a thing, okay? So when I was a kid, way back when, no one wore sunscreen, which is awesome for me because I don't usually need it anyway, but it wasn't really a thing at all.
Hmm.
Now, all of a sudden, if you go out without sunscreen, it's like a major emergency, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then I have a question for you. Like, without wearing sunscreen in that time, did you remember getting burned?
never.
Do you remember having skin issues?
Nope. I mean,
Was skin cancer a big thing?
not that I'm aware of. I was, a kid, mostly teenager, but we would just go in and out about our business. Like we would work out in the yard or whatever. We did our outside work. It wasn't a thing that you had to worry about,
Yeah.
right?
But now it's if you don't wear it, you're gonna get skin cancer. You're
Yeah,
gonna get sunburn. You're going
yeah,
to have these issues.
yeah,
And yeah, so that's about the time it really,
yeah. And,
switched.
and sunglasses, people of course had sunglasses and they were cool, but not like today where you go out and that's the first thing you do when you go outside. Oh my God, I gotta put my sunglasses on, right?
Yeah.
It's different than it used to be, you
Mhm.
know? Interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, yeah.
Things have changed.
Yes, they have. All right. Well, any other little things we could say about that I haven't asked?
I don't think so. If anybody has questions,
Okay.
it's the
All
best
right.
way.
Well, thanks for watching our Q&A follow-up on the videos that we've done. We've got more in the works.
Mhm.
And so send me topic ideas, questions, comments, anything is appreciated. Thank
Yes,
you
thank
so much,
you.
Deanna. Appreciate your time.
Yep, thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.